Right. Welcome, Holly, to the Science and Magic podcast. It's such a joy and an honor to have you here.
Thank you. I feel like the joy and honor is mine. I'm so
Oh,
excited.
I know this is going to be a very, I feel, ethereal conversation. Before we dive into what you do and the gifts that you offer the world, I would love for you to share anything about your upbringing, your childhood, how you grew up, and anything that would perhaps inform how you've come to be who you are today.
Oh, I feel like there's so much. Right. Yeah, so I am adopted and I was actually conceived on a refugee camp in Malaysia. My biological family comes from Vietnam and they went to Malaysia, and then I was conceived there and born in Canada, specifically Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I was adopted pretty much right away. And I grew up in the country. So just west of the city, we lived on an acreage. And so I had a lot of space, a lot of expansion around, like physically. And yeah, like when I think back to my childhood, I remember being outside a lot in the garden. I remember like chasing butterflies. I don't even know why I'm sharing all this. It's kind of
I love
random.
it.
And yeah, I grew up in a very white community. And I grew up figure skating. I figure skated for 17 years. So I was always in the arena. And what else did you want to know about my childhood? I have a brother who was also
Mm,
adopted,
mhm.
and we're very opposite. I'm like the opposite kind of, I don't want to say black sheep because it sounds negative, but I love being different. So,
Yeah. In what ways do you feel different from your brother?
oh gosh, our brains work completely differently.
Yeah.
He's very intelligent. He's so like book smart, and just the way his brain thinks is it's so different. And we used to always have a joke, like if I like something, clearly he would hate it.
Yeah. I love this imagery of you chasing butterflies and this idea too of like you feeling different than your brother, this like book smart. I kind of think of this energy as being more like spirally or non-logical or non-direct or like these dichotomies. And yeah, I so you're a dream oracle,
Mhm.
and share a little bit about what that is and how the story of how you uncovered this unique skill set that you have.
Yeah. So, what, at least my definition of what a dream oracle is essentially somebody who can connect with spirit through the dream world and receive messages on behalf of someone else. So, essentially, dreaming for someone else to get answers and insights and guidance to areas of their life, and helping them uncover what needs to be perhaps healed or shifted within themselves so they can align more deeply with that which they want to create in this physical world and also non-physical world.
And how did you
Mhm.
uncover this unique ability?
Yeah, very randomly. I always say that I grew up like the majority of my life. I'm 41 now, and I didn't discover these gifts until I was 36, 37, around there. And previous to that, I always felt like I was just a muggle. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just didn't feel like I had a very conscious or tangible spiritual connection. And it wasn't that I never believed that I wasn't guided or I didn't have spirit guides. I just didn't hear them. I didn't feel them. I didn't sense them in a very like obvious way. And it wasn't until I went to Egypt and I went on a sacred site tour and retreat with my spiritual mentor and teacher, Brooke Still. That's when everything really opened up in the dream world. I've always been interested and fascinated by my dreams and wanted to explore what they meant. But for most of my life, I didn't get it. I didn't get what my dreams were telling me,
Mm.
and so it wasn't until my trip to Egypt that things really unlocked for me and started making a lot of sense.
I love that. In Egypt, what were you having more vivid dreams that you were processing with your spiritual teacher, or were there things in your environment or conversations that you had that were awakening you to what you were dreaming, or both?
I think it was a combination of both. So, little bit of a backstory with my teacher. When I first started working with her, she had said to me, 3 days before our session and 3 days after, I'm going to work on you in what I call night school, which is in the dream world when you're sleeping. You probably won't remember it, and that's totally fine. But just know that we're going to be connecting when you're sleeping and leave it at that. And so at first I was like, that's a bit odd, but okay, I'm open to it. And that sounds really cool. And I wish I could remember that because I want to know A, if it's like a real thing, and B, I would just be a really cool experience. And so that was a couple of years before we went to Egypt is when I started working with her. So I knew about this quote unquote night school, and I knew that she worked with dreams in a different way, or through dreams in a different way. And when I was in Egypt, there was a lot of activations and openings that we experienced there. And that was when I remembered night school for the first time. So, yes, I had more vivid dreams and more conscious dreams. So, it was like I could lucid dream before, which is just essentially knowing that you're in a dream. And when I was in Egypt, it opened up in an even bigger way where I was like so much more conscious and aware of the dream world and could be more me. Like before, when I was moving through the dream world, it was more like autopilot, whereas it became more intentional and conscious.
Yeah. And in your childhood, were you able to connect with your dreams in a conscious way too, lucid dreaming, like as you grew up?
No, but what I think was really supportive was my mom. I would ask her, like, is what are dreams? Like, where do we go when we dream? And my mom was into spirituality. And so she was great in leaving that door open for me. And she basically told me, your spirit goes to heaven or the dream world, and it's like where spirit is. And so I was aware of that. And that resonated with me at a young age. And that's why I always wanted to uncover what my dreams were. But I was not lucid. I didn't start lucid dreaming until I was maybe 20, 21, around there.
That's wonderful that your mom held this space for you to explore spirit and mystery and encourage you to do that. That's so important. Um, were you intentionally trying to lucid dream when you started, or did it just happen?
It just happened. What happened actually was I didn't even know what lucid dreaming was until like my early 20s. I was having a conversation with a friend, and he had explained to me what lucid dreaming was. And so from that conversation, just the awareness of what lucid dreaming was, that's when I started lucid dreaming. Hmm.
So with this dreaming, and like let's say I'm so curious what it looks like, right? So you're connecting with spirit, and let's say I know you work with clients and you help them explore something within their consciousness. Maybe say a little bit about what it looks like. You pose a question, I want to explore this, or I'm asking this question. And is it before you go to sleep, you set the intention? Is it in your dream? Kind of maybe share a little bit about what that might look like.
Yeah. So when I dream for other people, I always do my best to position the question from an empowering point of view for the client. So it's never about finding out exactly what they're going to experience or like who their soulmate is, but it's about what does that client need to know or do or heal within themselves to align and attract what it is that they desire. And so once I've got that empowering question that, feels aligned for them, then I go into the dream world and I essentially know the question. I memorize the question. And then throughout the dreams, sometimes I'm lucid, Sometimes I'm not. It's honestly different for every client. And the dreams are different for every client. And they feel different than dreams for like myself or like my normal dreams. And so oftentimes I will be lucid and aware and present to what their question is and navigating the dream world with that in my mind, so to speak, but then witnessing what is happening around me. And yeah, like I said, it's different every time. Sometimes the messages from my guides will just be like downloaded into me. Like I'll witness a dream and then they'll literally download everything into me in a moment. And then in that moment, I'll be like, okay, this is why this is happening in this dream scene right now. This is what this person represents. This is what this task represents. This is why we're here in this location. This is why the air feels the way it does. Like it's all in like this moment. And oftentimes when that happens, it will jolt me awake, not in a terrible way or like upsetting way, but it'll like wake me. And then I will record. I have a voice memo on my Apple Watch. So I record memos into my Apple Watch and then I will go back to sleep and I do it all again.
Yeah. Wow. And this idea of like collapsing the experience of time in a way, because in that moment, it's all there, all able to be accessed. And
Yeah.
it's so thought provoking to think of that. There isn't like this like linear sequence. I love that you say we create an empowering question. And that is a lot of the work, right? Is like, what is the question we're asking? And then you hold that question and you let spirit show the answer. How would you describe your experience of spirit? And I know, talking about spirit or the divine or God or the universe is so different for every single person. When you are connecting with your experience of spirit, what does that feel like? What resonance might be there? And it might be hard to describe in words, but just to kind of provide some context around how you're relating to these questions and these dreams.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting and a really great question because, for most of my life, I expected the feeling of spirit or the experience and knowing of spirit to be a certain way. And it never was that for me. And that's why I always felt like I was a muggle because I was expecting something different than what I was receiving. And so now I know how spirit feels for me. And like I said, it's like that experience in the dream world where there is so many different senses. Like I can't, my human mind can't even articulate or count all the senses that we all experience in the dream world. And so there's that sensation of like this big expansion, but there's also for me a grounding. Like if I could put it into words, it's yeah, I feel a surrounding and I feel a grounding. And when I'm communicating with them, like just throughout the day, the best way for me is through meditation.
Mhm.
And then obviously through dreams. I I'm trying to come up with other words for like that surrounding kind of grounding warm feeling. It just feels like presence. Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel that surrounding, grounding, and warm. I think it's very sensory. I can relate to that. I'm curious, what were you expecting to experience with spirit?
Well, as I mentioned, my mom she was interested in spirituality and she had a friend who was a medium. And this medium would literally be like, oh, wait, they're talking. And then she would hear something, I guess. And then she would say what they would say. And I'm like, well, that does not happen for me. And so there's like the auditory clairaudience, like I don't have that. I don't see spirit in the way that other people describe. Like I see evidence of spirit, but I don't see spirit.
Mhm.
And so I was expecting to see, hear, feel, like actually have a conversation like you and I are having a conversation now. It does not happen that way for me.
Oh, it's so good you bring this up because I think a lot of people think they're like doing the stuff the wrong way sometimes if their experience isn't the same as someone else's. And I'm the same. I don't see visuals very much. I don't hear like whispers or voices. I very much just, it's for me, it's a body knowing, like it's through my body. It's just like a hit. It's just like a knowing that something is there, or that. So that's why your words really resonated with me, because that feeling of being surrounded, grounded, and warm feels very sensory. And spirit talking about this is part of the Science and Magic podcast, is we hold space for both science and what we can know through the scientific method and peer-reviewed scientific research. And then we also like to skirt off into this unknown space where consciousness is held and we actually don't know. And we can relate to each other through storytelling and through sharing similar resonance with words. And I think that is a vital part of this human experience too. So thank you for sharing a bit about how you relate to spirituality. I'm curious, I know you mentioned meditating, but in what ways do you connect with spirit on a regular basis? And if you want to share a bit about what this practice of meditation looks like, because that's very different for everybody as well.
Yeah. So obviously there's the dream work that I do, and that's like every night where I know I'm connecting and feeling that I'm connecting and trusting. Like there's a lot of trusting. Like I'm just reviewing through my mind the experiences that I have and trusting that everything is unfolding how spirit wants it to unfold. And sorry, what was the rest of the question?
Kind of how you connect with spirit on
Oh, on
a
all
regular
right.
basis.
On a
Yeah.
regular basis. I like went off for a moment there.
That's okay. That's
um,
good.
yeah, so I have tarot cards that I play with, but I don't consider myself like a avid tarot reader, but I find that the imagery is helpful because I feel like spirit connects with me in a dyslexic way. Like I can be a little bit dyslexic, and so I find tarot cards really help me kind of hear what they're saying and connect in with what they're saying. Meditation, I've got some practices that my teacher shared with me. I mean, there's so many different types of meditation. But lately, what I have been doing is focusing on meditations that bring me into myself and going deeper within myself. For a while, I was like going out into the cosmos and doing that expansion type meditation. But lately, it's been like going inwards and quieting and connecting from that space. And then usually after my meditation, I'll have a question that I'll ask my guides, and they'll answer it. So it's like that. That's sort of my practice. And crystals, I love crystals. I've got my crystals that I'm always holding on to
Oh
and
my
playing
gosh.
with. Yeah.
I'm holding on to one too. That's so funny.
I have like them all around me. I've got like all the crystals.
That's beautiful. This idea of connecting in meditation into the body, like it's through the body, that is such gorgeous imagery. And I was learning about I can't remember the source honestly, but a form of prayer where you let the chin drop, you let the gaze drop, and you look at the heart. And it's this idea of spiraling inward and connecting to spirit and mystery and guidance is through the body, not transcending the body, but it's within the body. And I think distinguishing between those two things when you were sharing really, really resonated with me. Like we can totally travel into the cosmos and the stars and the future and the past and make it into this timeless space and go out of the body. There's a way there. And then there's also a way that is touring this brilliance that is within the system. And that's personally where a lot of my work lies, is how can we inhabit these vessels that we're in and find so much freedom within that, inhabiting them. Not that it's like warm and fuzzy all the time, right? There's tons of stuff in the body, but it's through the body that we can also find spirit. It's just so good. I feel like I could ask a million more questions about that. You So I'm curious, do you have a night off of dreams? Like what if you just want to shut it off?
Yeah, I do set boundaries around when I dream for others or for the collective. And I basically like Monday to Thursday is when I'll work, quote unquote work, or set the intentions and really be super intentional about my dreams. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'll dream for me. And sometimes I need to take naps. Naps are so helpful when there's a lot of overwhelm, maybe in one's life or in my life. Um, if there's just lots going on, or if I'm not sleeping well during the night, I will definitely nap during the day. So at night, then I can quote unquote like dream for others and do that work.
Do you dream when you nap?
I do, but I find it harder and I don't like to.
Do you ever wake up and not remember your dreams? Or is that just not common at all?
No, I usually do remember my dreams unless I'm jolted awake. The other night our fire alarms went off
Oh,
twice in the middle of the night. And so I didn't remember those two dreams.
yeah. Do you ever feel when you are dreaming and kind of floating in this symbology and these sensations and speaking the language of spirit that's beyond like logical words, do you ever feel unsure of how you're translating that information?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I won't necessarily understand everything. And so what I will do is just let spirit know that that didn't fully come through. And if I feel like it's something that I need to understand or consciously bring back into this consciousness, then I will ask them to share it in a different way. And other times I know and I trust that we remember what we're meant to remember. And sometimes we're not meant to remember everything because it wouldn't be helpful at this point.
Yeah. A state of surrender into the information that you are receiving. That's
Yeah.
so
I
helpful.
mean, sometimes in the dream world, we are doing some really deep work, and our conscious minds might not be ready for that. So we don't remember, and that's perfect. There's like these layers of our subconscious that are working through things, and it needs to be worked out and healed on those energetic levels before we can bring it to like our conscious. So trusting that we remember what we're meant to and we don't what we don't is kind of my motto when it comes to remembering dreams or not.
Yes. I'm curious so what does your nighttime ritual look like? Because I know for me, like, let's say I have a Netflix reality TV show binge before bed. Well, that totally influences my dreams. But sometimes I like to do that because, like, I'm human and I just like to just zone out. Whereas if I do, a body scan before bed, I sleep in a more, just like in a deeper way. And I'm curious, as a dream oracle, what does your nighttime ritual look like? And have you noticed differences in your ability to connect with dreams and spirit based off of what you do before bed?
I am a big believer in nighttime, like bedtime dream rituals, because it's like intentionally opening that door to spirit and saying, like, okay, I am opening this door. I am going to be aware and ready to receive whatever you want to share with me or whatever needs to be shared with me. And so much of what I do is intention based. Sometimes, but I also believe in like keeping things simple. Like I don't have, really long half-hour ritual. Like, no, most of my ritual is like when I'm getting ready for bed. I'll light a candle, I'll do smudging. Sometimes I'll have a tea, special like herbal tea, a dreaming kind of tea. I've also got different tinctures or essences that I'll tune into, but it's not always the same every night. And I've always got my crystals, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty much it. The last thing that I think about before falling asleep is always whatever my intention is or what I want to work on through the dream world. And that's basically it. When I am working with clients, the dreams come, and they just come when they're ready to come, whether I um like strongly focus or not, they come.
Hmm. Let's say, are you pretty regular then with these rituals? Because I'm thinking of, I mean, it feels so long ago that I would like go out dancing at night or something and like be up until 2 a.m., come home, sleep. In those moments, would you still kind of have your crystals around you, have a tea before bed? I'm just thinking because this is your such a unique gift to have. How do you integrate it with these very human moments of, if you want to do a TV marathon or you are going out to dance, like, are you able to hold both or does it ever get hard?
Well, usually when I'm doing those things, like going out, I mean, it's been a long time, unfortunately, but when I did, those were on the nights that I wouldn't dream, you know. But in the beginning, I did try it, and I still could, but it's not as balanced for me to do that. So I try and reserve those nights on the weekend when I'm not, quote unquote, working on clients. But I will watch TV before bed, but there's certain shows where I know, like, okay, I need to stay away from these types of shows because they will show up in my dreams. But I have noticed that the messages still come through, even though the dream is influenced by, um, like, say, the characters or the scenes from the movie. It's become really interesting how it's like I've noticed there's like this half sort of, I don't know how to explain it, like half brain processing the dream, and then the other half is like the dream oracle stuff. And they're kind of blended.
Wow. Yeah, the reason I'm asking this is because I know kind of as we fall asleep, our brain waves go from this really high frequency and they get lower and lower and lower until we sleep. And on this bridge between waking and sleeping is something called theta brainwaves. And it's where we access our subconscious. And we can often see a lot of like visuals or pictures there. But if we do watch TV before bed, chances are we're kind of in that theta alpha brainwave state, this lower frequency, and our subconscious is very suggestible. So I will notice that what I watch influences how I dream. But what's so interesting to hear you say is that the messages still come through, even though the organ of the brain is interpreting it from these pictures of what we're watching. Like that feels hopeful to me in a lot of ways, that I'm not just coding my subconscious, that there's still this other aspect here. We have the body and
Mm.
then we have the spirit aspect and they're
Yeah.
meshing. Yeah.
Yeah. So an example that I can give is my husband loves PlayStation. And so sometimes he'll play it and I'll just be there on the couch and I'll watch a little bit and I'll do my own thing and read and kind of go back and forth. And I noticed that when I do that, there'll be like my dream will, like, the people are moving as if they're in a video game, but it's still like the characters. It's still like the dream, right? But if it would still, like, I think it would still be the same dream, but they just physically would be moving different than if I hadn't watched the game. Does that make sense? So
Totally.
that's like an example of how it's kind of blended.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
very, very interesting to me. All things dreams. Um, I want to kind of go back to this transformation that you had. I'm curious what you did before you were a dream oracle. And then as you woke up to that gift and started your own business, what that process looked like for any listeners who may resonate with that journey.
Yeah. So my career before was in the mortgage world. So it's finance, banks, very corporate. And then what had happened was my husband and we decided we started talking one day and we're like, what would happen if we just left our corporate lives sold everything and moved to the other side of the world. Because at this point, I was really yearning to serve. I didn't know how I was going to serve. I didn't know what that looked like, but I knew that I was ready to do that. I've spent like pretty much my entire life doing a lot of healing work and doing retreats and working with different healers and therapists to heal on my own path. And I really wanted to give back. And my corporate career, as much as I did enjoy it and did love it, it wasn't satiating that part of me and satisfying that part that wanted to help others and wanted to be in this spiritual space. And so when we had left to move to Spain, I, for myself, had set the intention that this was me saying yes to living a life in more service and helping others, and show me what that is. Open that up for me. Like, I don't know what it is. And so for a while, my husband and I, we actually started doing this work together and trying to create a spiritual based business together. And then this sort of evolved to, me going to Egypt and this awakening and then that's kind of how it all sort of unfolded from there. And really it feels like for me, when I look back, it was just that me saying yes to spirit and saying yes to, okay, I'm ready to do this. What is this? And then it came that way.
Did you receive any pushback from your family or friends or anyone, as it can be quite radical to like, I'm going to quit my job and
Oh yeah.
explore, spirit. Yeah. What did that look like, and how did you maneuver around
Oh,
that?
that was a hot mess. That was really tough. It was really tough. Because when we decided to move, we it was like everything was crumbling. Identities of ourselves were crumbling. And of course, our friends and family didn't understand that. And still, I'm sure they don't understand it. And it was just, yeah, like everything, like leaving everything. And we were questioning everything. And so there was a lot of shifting that I was going through and my husband was going through. And then at that time, we also got married. And so there was an energetic shift in our relationship. And so there was a lot of new things, a lot of new energy, a lot of things shedding. And it was a very challenging time. And it was something that we astonishingly did together. Because it was hard, I think, for our friends to understand why we were leaving. And then they didn't understand, at least I don't think they understood all the shifts that we were going through. Like, it was really hard for us to communicate it because we were in it. And so, yeah, it was a challenging time. That's for sure. But that happened, like I said, when we were leaving Canada. Um, and then when I came out of like the spiritual closet, I didn't even know I was really in the spiritual closet with these gifts. But when I came out with them, I just, at first it was hard. And I think that I judged myself more than maybe others. No one really outwardly said anything to me saying like, this is crazy or you're nuts or anything like that. But I felt that way. And so I had to navigate that for myself. And it took time to fully embody this gift and share it and speak to it and like create this business.
Yeah. What really stands out to me is how you and your husband were able to support each other through this time. And I'm so glad that you had each other. Also, this notion of kind of coming out of the spiritual closet. I I grew up in the like heavily involved with the church, and also really interested in things like horoscopes and astrology. and coming at that from a viewpoint of like, oh, that's bad, that's evil, that's witchcraft, right? And now I have really dove into a lot of practices from my Irish lineage and kind of Celtic, pre-Celtic spirituality. But from that part of me that was really involved with the church, it was like, oh, there was this almost, I felt like I was coming out. Like when I came out as queer, I'm like, I am coming out as a witch right now. Like is what it felt like, even though I'm not like a regular practitioner of like Wicca or anything. But there was definitely this feeling of vulnerability associated with stepping into a spiritual practice outside of the church. And you didn't mention that you were involved with the church growing up, but I'm curious what that vulnerability came from. You mentioned that you judged yourself harshly, maybe more than others. What felt vulnerable for you to share? What felt like that was the source of that?
Yeah, you know, I no, I did not grow up in the church. But I had a few really negative experiences around spiritual gifts before. And so I had glimpses of these gifts before I had even gone to Spain, before I had even gone to Egypt. And it was always around friends, and it was not received well. And so it was really traumatizing for me, actually, these experiences. And I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know how to navigate. And so I just really kind of shut it off. And so when I discovered these gifts as a dream oracle, there was this flurry of memories that I was like, well, those were really unpleasant. Like, I don't want to experience that again. And so it took time to embody and time to want to share this stuff. And I'm sure I was really awkward at first.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry that you had those experiences, and we all long to belong. That is baked in our evolution of wanting to belong to the tribe that we're in. And so this experience, if we experience rejection from whether it's our religious upbringing or familial circles or friend circles, it can really deter us from wanting to share that. And I just want to encourage any listeners that your gifts are sacred, and I hope that you're able to let them be seen in whatever way feels safe for you whenever you are ready. Oh,
That was beautiful.
oh, I know. It's just
Yeah.
like my heart goes out to those who can feel this intuition and feel this resonance, this connection, but it's not safe for them to express it, whether it's energetic or a literal physical safety. So I just
Hmm.
wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that and thank you for your bravery of stepping
Yeah.
into your gifts, because it's such a
Oh,
gift to those around you. So,
yeah. And I was just gonna say, like, if anybody listening is feeling that way, feel free to reach out. Like,
mm,
I understand, and I'm happy to be a cheerleader along anybody's path and stepping into who they are, whatever that might look like.
oh, yes,
Mhm.
likewise. Yeah, that's beautiful, Holly. Um, let's see. Where are we at? I'll probably edit this out. That was just like I just felt that for a second. Um, so my expertise is working with high achievers and working with high achieving energy and those who are just kind of go, 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 go. And our society, Western society, is pretty much like that. So those who are swept in that, and I help them to slow down and inhabit their bodies, and in doing so, more fully inhabit their lives. I'm curious, as a business owner, how high achieving energy might show up in your life, and what practices do you do to kind of slow your system down and make sure that you have space for your gifts to be expressed?
That's a great question, and something that I've been really present to lately, because I am very much that A type, come from the corporate world, have goals, have targets. How are we going to accomplish them? Let's like learn all the things, let's do all the things. And while we're doing it, let's make it all perfect. Let's dot all of the I's, cross all the T's. Like I'm that type of person. And the last month or so, actually, I feel like it's been going on for the last year, 2 years, where I'm like literally trying to slow down and not hustle. Like I have to make an effort to not hustle and surrender more and relax more and stop more. And so, what I've intentionally done now is in the last month, I've decided, okay, I'm not working. I'm doing a 4-day work week. There's some commitments that I have on Friday. So I'll still do like 2 hours of work on Friday. But generally, I try and keep my work to Monday to Thursday. And I start around 11 in the morning. Like I have gentle mornings. There's no alarms allowed in this house unless we have to catch an airplane, but there's no alarms. And so I have gentle mornings. I start at 11 and I want to be done by like 3. So I need to create that structure for myself because I want to achieve. I want to hustle. And I love what I do. I love it. And at the same time, I think I can be more efficient and intentional with the time that I spend working so I can do other things with my time. And so now I'm starting to have more time. And this intention that I'm working with right now is really deepening my mindful presence to be aware of like, what do I want to do in these moments now? Because I'm so used to just going. What do I want to do? That's not just housework or chores or, errands, because that could fill up your entire life. But it's like, no, what do I want to do to nourish my soul, nourish my body in a way that I haven't done because I've been hustling?
Yes. This container, I think this is something I work with clients on, is like, what's the container for your self-care? What's the structure? And one thing that I do is I only socialize on Friday evenings and Saturdays. Because socializing, your Monday through Thursdays, I'm like you, I work and then I have like a nice meal with my partner. And then I go to bed and I wake up, and I love work too. But what can happen is that because we love it, it just absorbs us. And then we don't have space to rest. And then our nervous systems are go, 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 go. And then things like connecting to spirit and dream world or writing a meaningful blog post, or that kind of gets put on the wayside because we're just doing the things. So this idea of a container is so wise for you to create that. Is anything intriguing you now that you have all this extra space?
Well, I really want to, and I am diving more into astrology. I'm not an astrologist, but astrology and dreams are so connected. And see, it's still like tied to work in a way, but I really am curious. And so it's like this personal interest / work. So I have to be careful with that. But astrology is really capturing my attention. I'm also really interested in connecting more with plants, and I think it's this desire to connect with earth more and experiencing and like just consciously connecting with like the wisdom of the plants and what plants have to offer. So like herbal medicine, I'm really interested in exploring a bit more. And yeah, I'm still also just asking the question, what else does my heart desire? I'm still exploring that.
Yeah, and having space for it to just roam and do whatever we want to do can feel like such a luxury and so foreign to many of us. Like, I have this space and I have nothing planned in it.
I
What?
know.
What does that mean? I can actually do things that I want to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's like, what do you like to do?
I know, and it's coming back to like childlike awe in a sense. I'm having that visual of you chasing butterflies as a child, running around outside. It's coming back to that essence, and that essence is such this elixir of life, of living deliciously. It's like connecting back into what brings us joy, and having a container that allows us to connect
Mhm.
back to that. So good for you for holding that for yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you offer a few different services. I know that you work with clients they are working with something in their life, and you'll dream and connect with spirit about that. You also do dream readings, offer dream readings for the Science and Magic portal on occasion, which is such a
Mhm.
gift. And then one thing that's really amazing is that you help people awaken to their own inner dream oracles. Share more about that, what that looks like.
Yeah, so I have a dream oracle school, and there's sort of two avenues within the school. So the first avenue is for people who are interested in their dreams and wanting to consciously work with their dreams as a tool for spiritual awakening or as a tool for helping them navigate this waking world. So, teaching them to understand their personal dream language so they can understand the messages in their dreams. And then, so that's sort of for like the dream curious people. And then the second avenue, I offer a practicum for those who've been in the first one for a while and are thinking, okay, I think I have an inkling where I might be able to dream for other people too. And then I have a practicum where I work with them one on one to teach them how to do these readings for other people and how to navigate through the dream world and connect with their clients through that space.
Mm. I imagine you have people, and maybe not, but like approach you in day to day life, like sharing their dreams all the time. Like, oh, I had this dream or this dream. And do you, in those moments, do you have an idea if they're asking you what symbolism means? How do you guide that conversation?
Yeah. Most of the time, people are asking what the symbolism means. And I always try and have people tune into the energy and the vibration of their dreams before the symbolism, and not look at the dreams literally. Like we naturally try and think about our dreams and understand our dreams with our thinking mind. But what I advise people to do is drop into their heart space and their intuition and feel into the dream and the energy of the dream before looking at the symbolism. And tuning in from that space, you will get more insights than you will with the symbolism.
Oh, that's so good. Trying to think and logically, because dreams don't often make sense.
No,
So
they're not.
it
Yeah, sorry. I was just
no,
going to
that's
say
okay.
they're not logical, and they are not like linear like this waking world. They don't literal, that's a word. They're not literal. And so I often get people messaging me saying like, "Oh, I just had this dream that my husband cheated on me or my boyfriend cheated on me, my partner, whatever." And they're like, does that mean that, my partner is going to cheat on me? And most of the time, no. Most of the time, it has nothing to even do with the partner or the relationship, even. It could have something to do with something completely different.
And dropping in and noticing how it feels. This is also coming back to that accessing the body. How does
Mhm.
it feel in my body? What sensations are coming up? Is my heart beating quick? Do I have something in my gut? Like, am I grounded right now? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling so? Just noticing those bodily feelings will help translate the dreams. That's kind of bringing that back to like earth meets dream world, which is so beautiful. So, if someone wanted to be a part, I get people all the time, like my friends who are like, we always share our dreams with each other. It's so fun. What does dream school look like? I
I
love the
love
name.
Yeah. So I have a online portal where there are different modules and videos and handouts and some meditations that I guide the students through. And it's like 6 months worth of modules of content that they work through. And then that is something that they can do on their own time. So they can go as fast or as slow as they like. I always say slower is better, especially with dreams. And then I support them on a weekly basis with Q&A, and each month there is a Zoom session. Oh, and every week with the Q&A I host a dreaming pod, and it's kind of like little student dreaming groups where I share with them some dreaming prompts, and they explore looking at their dreams from these different aspects and work together to connect in with their dreams.
Hmm. Is it your experience that when people go through the dream school or they start noticing their dreams more or hold this intention that they start dreaming in a more vivid, connected way?
Yes and no. Like some are already very vivid dreamers, but the thing that seems to shift most for them is they are starting to understand their messages in their dreams for one, and then also it impacts their waking life in such a profound way. It's so different for so many of my students. Um, but many of them have said like, wow, I haven't, like, I feel different. I feel more whole. And I feel like I've tuned into a part of myself that I've forgotten. And that for them is so profound because now they've got this piece of themselves back and are tapping into themselves in a way that either they haven't for a long time or they didn't know existed. So that's typically what my students have said.
That is so profound and special that they are recovering a lost part of themselves through dreaming.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool because there's some who are in the practicum and they had no idea that that they were dream oracles, and they're just like, no, I just started because I was curious to explore my dreams, and then now this is the result. They're like, wow, that's so cool.
And that's the beauty of awakening to our talents, that we are awakening to something to share with the world, but we also become more of who we are in the process of doing that. And that
Hmm.
is the true gift, is we change. Like we
Hmm.
change, we feel more embodied, we feel, and then what we offer is more embodied. So,
Hmm.
oh, what you're offering is so cool. And I love that you have sleep pods. It all sounds so soothing to me. And
Yeah.
you also have I was looking on your Instagram, you have a way for, is it the public to submit their dreams, and then you create a theme. It's called like dream. What's that called?
Yeah, yeah. So I have a little dream collective exploration that I do on my Instagram. And so in my stories each day, I post a little sticker asking you to share what you dreamt that night. And then on Thursdays, I post a recap where I review all the dreams and I find the common threads and what we're collectively dreaming. Because much of what we dream is collective. A lot of people feel like their dreams and they feel so personal, so they think they're personal, but a lot of what we dream is collective energy. And so I kind of feel into what dreams were shared and tune into what collective energy themes, messages, and insights are, and I share those on Thursday.
Good to know.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun.
Have you ever had an experience where you have a shared dream with someone, or like in your school or with your clients, that they have a dream that's the same? I've had that experience where I met with someone I knew in my dream, and we experienced the same scenery and everything.
I have not actually.
That is,
Well, I guess that's not true because I have with my teacher when we do night school. So that, yes, 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 I have. But I haven't had that with just a friend where it's like, hey, you were in my dream last night. Hey, so were you? What were you doing? I haven't come across that yet.
I want to join night school. Can I join? No, that's totally my vibe. It's so good.
Yeah, yeah, I do night school for my students. Actually, I forgot to
Oh my
mention that
gosh.
is I do night school because a lot of like activations and awakenings are supported and integrated through the dream space. And so when my students, like as soon as they sign up for my dream oracle school, they come into night school. And so I work with them in that space to just help open up their channels through the dream world.
And when saying activation, activation is like a remembering, or just
Hmm.
for listeners who maybe don't
Hmm.
know what that means, what would you
Yeah.
say activation is?
I think remembering is a great way to put it. It's also like turning on that switch, turning things to on, turning the flow, like allowing those gates to open so the information can flow.
And that information, I love it because it's available to all of us,
Hmm.
and we all have access to it. And guides can help, and having ways to connect with our bodies and our hearts can help. but the ferocious Aquarius in me loves for everyone to have access to that collective. And I just think it's so amazing what you're doing, Holly, by opening up a space for people to connect to that energy in their own way, in their own time, with their own words, and feel empowered in that way. So thank you for the work
Mm.
that you do. What is the best way to stay connected to your work? I know you have a YouTube channel. I know you have Instagram. What would you suggest for?
Yeah, the number one would be Instagram. You can find me at Dream Oracle Holly. I'm most active on Instagram, so that's the best spot. And I'm always super open to DMs and getting to know people. And yeah, Instagram, like you said, YouTube, I've got a website so people can tap into my content there. There's a lot of free stuff that I offer on my YouTube and Insta.
Great. And we'll link all of those below in the show notes. And
Oh,
Holly,
yeah. I was going to say, I have a free dream guide that people can download. So you can put that link below too. But it's just basically a guide to help people recall their dreams and interpret their dreams.
oh, I love that. I'm sure that'll be useful to a lot of people. Well, I just feel so connected to you in so many ways. We've only known each other over the ethers virtually. We've had so many good conversations. I am excited for the day where we can meet in person someday. And I just feel such a resonance with you and what you're doing. And I want to thank you for taking the time to be on this podcast and to share your wealth of knowledge with us.
Oh, thank you so much. And all of that right back at you. I can't wait for us to meet in person too. And I think that the magic that you share is so beautiful. And I'm so grateful to be a part of it and be able to connect in the way I get to because yeah, you're so magical. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Until next time.